Hello, welcome to the channel. Okay, is this thing working? It says it's working. Okay, it's working. Hello everyone, and welcome to the stream. Hope you're good. Hello. Yes. Hope you guys can see the stream. Just gonna start the Twitch stream real fast. Okay, the Twitch stream is also running. Nice. Let's see. Let's just close this windows. Let's close this windows. And let's just do Twitch. Okay, just a second. Let's see what's happening. Okay, let's see what's happening. Twitch is running. Hello. Okay, let's see what's happening. Twitch is running. Okay, I'm getting some feedback from this thing, so I'm going to have to mute. Muted. Nice. Okay, I hope you guys are doing good. Today we're gonna be reacting to the cursor video. So for those of you who don't know, cursor is this code editor, right? So let's just search it. Cursor. Right. Just a moment. So cursor is this editor, right? It's a code editor that was forked from VS Code. And for all the programmers out there, or the non-technical people, VS Code is basically what we use to code. So this entire thing is a different experience in that it has a different IDE, right? You're basically, what you're doing is you're using new graphical user interfaces that are not available in VS Code. And this is very helpful in that, you get to get suggestions, you get to get autocomplete on your code. You basically get to do code 1,000 times faster. Man, this thing is slow. Okay, so cursor. So these are the cursor guys, and basically their product is autocomplete. It allows for you to be able to edit code. See, it can auto generate. You can chat with it, and it gives you the relevant information in relation to what's happening inside your code, which is pretty fascinating. So let's move to the most important section, the video of this guy's explaining what cursor really is. So we're gonna be watching Lex Fridman. Okay, so these are the guys. Let's check out the video.
Do you know what's hiding in your business's data? Companies of all sizes use BigQuery to uncover new insights from their data, like cost savings, operational efficiencies, and new ways to grow revenue.
The following is a conversation with the founding members of the Cursor team, Michael Truel, Swali Asif, Arvid Lundmark, and Aman Sanger. Cursor is a code editor based on VS Code that adds a lot of powerful features for AI-assisted coding. It has captivated the attention and excitement of the programming and AI communities.
Yeah, that's true.
So I thought this is an excellent opportunity to dive deep into the role of AI in programming. This is a super technical conversation that is bigger than just about one code editor. It's about the future of programming and in general, the future of human AI collaboration.
So basically, it's the future of programming. And we all know that programming is definitely the future. And I think there's a lot of speculation on that programming is going to die off because of AI. I think this is wrong. And why I'm saying this is AI is important in generating code, sure. It has a lot of context, it has a lot of information. But what really makes it click is us prompting it, us giving it direction on what it should do. Obviously, in the future, you can automate this. You can basically put it in an environment and just tell it, hey, do your own thing, react to the environment, and possibly it can do that. But at this stage, it's pretty much a generating tool. And I think in the hands of the most creative person, it's going to be very detrimental. So let's continue.
In designing and engineering complicated and powerful systems. This is the Lex Fridman podcast. To support it, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, dear friends, here's Michael, Swale, Arvid, and Aman. All right, this is awesome. We have Michael, Aman, Swale, Arvid here from the Cursor team. First up, big ridiculous question. What's the point of a code editor?
So the code editor is largely the place where you build software. And today, for a long time, that's meant the place where you text edit a formal programming language. And for people who aren't programmers, the way to think of a code editor is like a really souped up word processor for programmers.
Yeah.
Where the reason
it's pretty true. A code editor basically allows you to write code, allows you to be able to, execute the code, allows you to be able to bundle the thing and then ship it. So it's very useful. It's like not as useful as using Notepad. Nothing against your Notepad, but it's one of those fundamental things that we use to write low-level program, and this had to do like understanding what the machine really is doing under the hood. Now we don't have focus on that. We have Python, very high level. One of the programming languages I think is very leading in AI research. We have C++, it's also used in AI. I really enjoy Python and C++, just saying. Also, we have JavaScript, obviously, one of the most impactful, and probably it's going to be the biggest thing. And Java, the one that I currently use in my day-to-day job. Yeah. It's pretty much used in a private sector a lot, but it's a great language.
It's souped up is code has a lot of structure. And so the quote unquote word processor, the code editor, can actually do a lot for you that word processors, sort of in the writing space haven't been able to do for people editing text there. And so, that's everything from giving you visual differentiation of like the actual tokens in the code so you can like scan it quickly, to letting you navigate around the code base, sort of like you're navigating around the internet with like hyperlinks. You're going to sort of definitions of things you're using.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Like you can go anywhere that you need pretty quickly, and it gives you like the syntax errors, pretty much directs you directly to where you want to go, instead of like, it's like programming in Word. What are you going to do in Word? But yeah, pretty interesting.
To error checking, to catch rudimentary bugs. And so traditionally, that's what a code editor has meant.
Yeah.
And I think that what a code editor is going to change a lot over the next 10 years, as what it means to build software maybe starts to look a bit different.
Yeah,
I think also a code editor should just be fun.
Yes, that is very important. That is very important.
Yeah, they should be fun. Otherwise, if you're just coding and not like anything is happening, nothing's changing, you're not seeing the errors, you're not seeing the bugs, you're trying to run the thing, but nothing's happening, then it's not going to be exciting. Coding is supposed to be like this very exciting thing that gets people so excited that they can't even just stop to think. That's why I like programming. And don't hate me on this, okay? I'm an Eclipse guy, okay? Because I do Java, I use Eclipse. But the thing is, these things don't have like AI in them, especially Eclipse. We don't have AI. That's why I think this code editor thing, it's gonna be useful to people who use VS Code already, but we need like a certain way to be able to use these LLMs in other IDEs just besides this cursor. But it's pretty interesting.
And it's actually sort of an underrated aspect of how we decide what to build. Like a lot of the things that we build, and then we try them out, we do an experiment, and then we actually throw them out because they're not fun. And so a big part of being fun is like being fast a lot of the time. Fast is fun.
Yeah.
Sublimation is a method of printing that transfers a printed design onto a material or fabric using ink and
something that's
heat.
responsive.
Yeah, fast. Yeah. Yeah, that should be a t-shirt.
like fundamentally, I think one of the things that draws a lot of people to building stuff on computers is this like insane iteration speed, where, in other disciplines, you might be sort of gate-capped by resources or the ability, to get a large group together. And coding is this like amazing thing where it's you and the computer, and that alone, you can build really cool stuff really quickly.
Yeah, especially when you're alone, like me. If you're a loner, sometimes you just feel more connected to your code. You feel like it's talking back to you. The program that you're writing is actually giving you feedback. It's giving you bugs most of the time, but it's trying to be helpful. It's trying to give you a direction of where you should go. And I think this is very impactful. I should be checking chat. Should be checking my chat. What's happening in the chat? Okay, there's nothing in the chat. So we all good. Let me just remove the chat just in case someone pops up. Now we have the chat. Now we can continue. Let's see.
So for people who don't know, Cursor is this super cool new editor that's a fork of VS Code. It would be interesting to get your kind of explanation of your own journey of editors. How did you, I think all of you were big fans of VS Code with Copilot. How did you arrive to VS Code, and how did that lead to your journey with Cursor?
Yeah. So I think a lot of us, well, all of us were originally Vim users.
Pure Vim.
Pure Vim, yeah. No NeoVim, just pure Vim in a terminal. And at least for myself,
that I've never used Vim. Never used Vim. I'll check it out, but I've never used it. I had Vim and NeoVim. I'll try to use those. But yeah, I'm just a VS Code guy, PyCharm guy, IntelliJ, Eclipse. We can even throw in Notepad++.
It was around the time that Copilot came out, so 2021, that I really wanted to try it. So I went into VS Code, the only platform, the only code editor in which it was available. And even though I, really enjoyed using Vim, just the experience of Copilot with VS Code was more than good enough to convince me to switch. And so that kind of was the default until we started working on Cursor.
And maybe we should explain what Copilot does. It's like a really nice autocomplete. It's
pretty much that. Pretty much a autocomplete that just completes your code. And most of the time it's not as accurate as you'd want it to be. But hey, these are the early stages of the internet. So not the internet, AI. So artificial intelligence definitely has some way to go, but I think we're heading in the right direction at this point.
Just as you start writing a thing, it suggests 1 or 2 or 3 lines how to complete the thing. And there's a fun experience in that You know, like when you have a close friendship and your friend completes your sentences, like when it's done well, there's an intimate feeling. There's probably a better word than intimate, but there's a cool feeling of like, holy shit,
This
it
guy
gets
knows me.
Yeah.
No,
I do get that sometimes. You complete each other's sentences. Hey, you're cool. Oh yeah, I am. And then it's like just clicks in your mind. Both of you are just like, wow, bro, did you just do what I think you did? Did you just say what I think you said? And yeah, you just vibing.
and then there's an unpleasant feeling when it doesn't get you. And so there's that kind of friction. But I would say for a lot of people, the feeling that it gets me overpowers that it doesn't.
And I think actually one of the underrated aspects of GitHub Copilot is that even when it's wrong, it's like a little bit annoying, but it's not that bad because you just type another character and then
even when it's wrong, basically it kind of nudges you in a certain direction. So you have to nudge it back to try and, back and forth and understand it. Basically try and, come out with a solution.
maybe then it gets you,
But it's
or you
like
type
a
another
friend.
character and then it gets you. So
Or
even when it's wrong,
co-friend.
it's not that bad.
Yeah, you can sort of iterate and fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, the other underrated part of Copilot for me sort of was just the first real AI product. It's like the first language model consumer product.
So Copilot was kind of like the first killer app for LLMs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the beta was out in 2021.
Right. Okay. So what's the origin story of Cursor?
So around 2020, the scaling loss papers came out from OpenAI. And that was a moment where this looked like clear, predictable progress for the field, where even if we didn't have any more ideas, it looked like you could make these models a lot better if you had more compute and more data.
By the way, we'll probably talk
But is that true?
for 3 to 4 hours on the topic of scaling loss.
Yes.
But scaling definitely
summarize-
is one of those things that's, a big debate. Are those things actually going to get better as we put more data, put more compute, just put more money into it? They're building nuclear powered stations to power these things. So generally, we want to achieve this thing. OpenAI, basically, their goal is AGI. But I think, AGI is a great goal for their organization. But I think the bigger thing is the usefulness of this thing in humanity, just in the society as a whole. It's great to have AGI. It's going to take your job, whatnot. But I believe people know their job. You know what you do. I know the job that I do best. I can train my own thing, but that's missing currently. So, yeah, I think their goal
it's
for
a
now
paper
is
and a
just
set of papers and a set of
looking-
ideas that say bigger might be better for model size and data size in the realm of machine learning.
It's bigger and better, but predictably better.
Okay, that's another topic of conversation.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
So around that time, for some of us, there were like a lot of conceptual conversations about what's this going to look like? What's the story going to be for all these different knowledge worker fields about how they're going to be made better by this technology getting better? And then I think there were a couple of moments where like the theoretical gains predicted in that paper started to feel really concrete. And it started to feel like a moment where you could actually go and not, do a PhD if you wanted to work on, do useful work in AI. Actually felt like now there was this.
True. I don't believe you need a PhD. I think people misunderstand. Education is there to give you the base. It's there to give you a starting point, right? But you have to go deep, Even if you do a PhD, it's still not a prerequisite for you to be a great AI researcher or a very prominent person who understands this technology thing. Going in and actually doing the dirty work is what's going to make you a great programmer. And I think the notion of trying to go and getting courses, degrees, computer science degrees, sure, but the best way to learn is by throwing yourself in and doing the work.
This whole set of systems one could build that were really useful. And I think that the first moment we already talked about a little bit, which was playing with the early beta of Copilot, like that was awesome and magical. I think that the next big moment where everything kind of clicked together was actually getting early access to GPT-4. So it was sort of end of 2022 was when we were tinkering with that model. And the step up in capabilities felt enormous. And previous to that, we had been working on a couple of different projects. We had been, because of Copilot, because of scaling laws, because of our prior interest in the technology, we had been tinkering around with tools for programmers, but things that are like very specific. So, we were building tools for financial professionals who have to work within a Jupyter notebook, or like, playing around with, can you do static analysis with these models? And then the step up in GPT-4 felt like, look, that really made concrete the theoretical gains that we had predicted before. It felt like you could build a lot more just immediately at that point in time. And also,
generative AI is a breakthrough technology in artificial intelligence.
If you train a model with images, it will be able to...
Cool.
If we were being consistent, it really felt like this wasn't just going to be a point solution thing. This was going to be all of programming was going to flow through these models. And it felt like that demanded a different type of programming environment, a different type of programming. And so we set off to build that sort of larger vision around that.
There's one that I distinctly remember. So my roommate is an IMO Gold winner, and there's a competition in the US called the Putnam, which is sort of the IMO for college people, and it's this math competition. He's exceptionally good. So Sheng Tong and Aman, I remember it's sort of June of 2022, had this bet on whether the 2024 June or July you were going to win a gold medal in the IMO with like models.
IMO is the International Math Olympiad.
IMO is International Math Olympiad, and so Arvid and I are both sort of also competed in it, so it was sort of personal. And and I remember thinking, man, this is not going to happen. This was like, even though I sort of believed in progress, I thought, IMO gold, just like Aman is just delusional. Yeah. That was the, and to be honest, I was, to be clear, very wrong.
Yeah.
But
because
that was maybe the most prescient
trained on this data, so
in the group.
So the new results from DeepMind, it turned out that you were correct. That's what
it was technically not.
Technically incorrect, but 1 point away.
Aman was very enthusiastic about this stuff. Back then. And before, Aman had this like scaling laws t-shirt that he would walk around with, where it had the like charts and like the formulas on it.
Oh, so you like felt the AGI, or you felt the scaling?
Yeah, I distinctly remember there was this one conversation I had with Michael, where before I hadn't thought super deeply and critically about scaling laws. And he kind of posed the question, why isn't scaling all you need? Or why isn't scaling going to result in massive gains in progress?
Scaling to me doesn't feel like it's going to... Obviously, it's going to give us a lot of data. That's for sure. We're going to have a lot of data than we had before. But it's also going to increase the range of these things. The understanding is going to be increased. But to say scaling is going to be the way but it's been proven that scaling is how these things get better and better. But I think there's an external thing that's missing, something that connects these things together. Obviously, in terms of text and embeddings, it's going to be able to become better. But I think there's an external factor that needs to be taken into account, especially when you want to execute these things. It's going to require a specific...
And I think I went through the stages of grief. There is anger, denial, and then finally at the end, just thinking about it, acceptance. And I think I've been quite hopeful and optimistic about progress since. I think one thing I'll caveat is I think it also depends on which domains you're going to see progress. Math is a great domain because, especially formal theorem proving, because you get this fantastic signal of actually verifying if the thing was correct. And so this means something like RL can work really, really well. And I think you could have systems that are perhaps very superhuman at math and still not technically have AGI.
Okay, so can we take it all the way to Cursor?
Mm-hmm.
And what is Cursor? It's a fork of VS Code, and VS Code is one of the most popular editors for a long time. Like everybody fell in love with it.
One of the most popular. Yeah, it's pretty out there.
Everybody loved Vim.
Very much.
I left Emacs for it. Sorry. So it unified in some fundamental way the developer community. And then you look at the space of things, you look at the scaling laws, AI is becoming amazing. And you decided, okay, it's not enough to just write an extension for VS Code.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of limitations to that. We need, if AI is going to keep getting better, we need to really like rethink how the AI is going to be part of the editing process. And so you decided to fork VS Code and start to build a lot of the amazing features we'll be able to talk about. But what was that decision like? Because there's a lot of extensions, including Copilot, of VS Code that are doing sort of AI type stuff. What was the decision like to just fork VS Code?
So the decision to do an editor seemed...
Need hosting that's speedy and simple to set up? Our security plan options could keep your online business running smoothly. 24/7 expert support.
Kind of self-evident to us for at least what we wanted to do and achieve. Because when we started working on the editor, the idea was these models are going to get much better, their capabilities are going to improve, and it's going to entirely change how you build software. Both in you will have big productivity gains, but also radical in how like the act of building software is going to change a lot. And so you're very limited in the control you have over a code editor if you're a plugin to an existing coding environment. And we didn't want to get locked in by those limitations. We wanted to be able to just build the most useful stuff.
Okay, well then the natural question is...
Yeah, that's true. Usually,
this VS Code is
usually they constrict you. If you're making a plugin, you're not gonna have the full functionality of being able to access the IDE, because you have access to basically the entire graphical user interface. You're able to change everything, change how certain widgets appear, certain text appears, or even the programming or the generation of the code within the code base. So yeah.
Kind of with Copilot a competitor. So how do you win? Is it basically just the speed and the quality of the features?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a space that is quite interesting, perhaps quite unique, where if you look at previous tech waves, maybe there's kind of one major thing that happened and it unlocked a new wave of companies. But every single year, every single model capability or jump you get in model capabilities, you now unlock this new wave of features, things that are possible, especially in programming. And so I think in AI programming, being even just a few months ahead, let alone a year ahead, makes your product much, much, much more useful.
Yeah, that's the thing about AI. It's constantly changing. We had 4.0, like recently, now we have 0.1. Things constantly change. And this is one of the things that, their product, they're saying they are going to differentiate it by being faster. The industry is constantly changing. Well, I guess they have all the editors, so they pretty much have an advantage. They have all the artificial intelligence, the LLMs, they have Claude Sonnet, they have ChatGPT. So I think they pretty much have all of those. Well, Copilot only uses ChatGPT. So
I think the cursor a year from now will need to make the cursor of today look obsolete. And I think, Microsoft has done a number of fantastic things, but I don't think they're in a great place to really keep innovating and pushing on this in the way that a startup can.
Yeah, we need young
just
people
rapidly
to push
implementing
this.
features.
And push, and kind of doing the research experimentation necessary to really push the ceiling.
I don't know if I think of it in terms of features as I think of it in terms of capabilities for programmers. It's that as the new O1 model came out, and I'm sure there are going to be more models of different types, like longer context and maybe faster. There's all these crazy ideas that you can try, and hopefully 10% of the crazy ideas will make it into something kind of cool and useful. And we want people to have that sooner. rephrase, it's like an underrated fact is we're making it for ourselves. When we started Cursor, you really felt this frustration that, models, you could see models getting better, but the Copilot experience had not changed. It's like, man, these guys, like the ceiling is getting higher. Like, why are they not making new things? Like they should be making.
Yeah, often the changes are so big that sometimes you feel like these companies are moving so slow and they're not iterating fast enough. For the average developer, we're always constantly bombarded by new technology almost every day. And this technology is far better than, the current things. Look at the LLMs. Cloud, ChatGPT 4 is now being beaten by Cloud 3.5 Sonnet, because Cloud 3.5 Sonnet is very good at code. So you have to have that latest thing. Every developer right now is praising Cloud 3.5. I've used it, and honestly, it's pretty good. For the project that I was doing, I'll showcase it. It's an app that allows you to write. It quickly picked up what I was trying to change instantly. That's why I think this quick to market, quick to move is very good strategy, if you're a startup.
Making new things, they should be like, where's all the alpha features? There were no alpha features. It was like, I'm sure it was selling well. I'm sure it was a great business, but it didn't feel. I'm one of these people that really want to try and use new things, and it was just there's no new thing for like a very long while.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how you put that into words, but when you compare Cursor with Copilot pretty quickly started to feel stale for some reason.
Yeah, I think one thing that I think helps us is that we're sort of doing it all in one, where we're developing the UX and the way you interact with the model at the same time as we're developing like how we actually make the model give better answers. So like how you build up the prompt.
There's moving past this, because they're trying to develop the UI, and they're also trying to develop the LLM and its responses. They're trying to make it better on all fronts. So they're tackling this thing from the graphical user interface, the response side, and trying to tweak it to make it better. So I guess that's why it had to be forked, because you can just do this with a plugin.
Or like, how do you find the context? And for a Cursor tab, like, how do you train the model? So I think that helps us to have all of it, like, sort of like the same people working on the entire experience end to end.
Yeah, it's like the person making the UI and the person training the model like sit to like 18 feet away. So
often the same person even.
Yeah, often even the same person. So you can create things that are sort of not possible if you're not talking. You're not experimenting.
And you're using, like you said, Cursor to write Cursor.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Cursor to write Cursor. Man, that's pretty funny. I guess that is the future, using your own code editor to basically make your own code editor. That's insane.
Talk about some of these features. Let's talk about the all-knowing, the all-powerful praise be to the tab. So the, autocomplete on steroids.
The tab.
Basically. So how does tab work? What is tab?
To highlight and summarize at a high level, I'd say that there are two things that Cursor is pretty good at right now. There are other things that it does. But two things that it helps programmers with. One is this idea of looking over your shoulder and being like a really fast colleague who can kind of jump ahead of you and type and figure out what you're going to do next. And that was the original idea behind, that was kind of the kernel of the idea behind good autocomplete, was predicting what you're going to do next. But you can make that concept even more ambitious by not just predicting the characters after your cursor, but actually predicting the next entire change you're going to make, the next diff, the next place you're going to jump to. And the second thing Cursor is pretty good at right now too, is helping you sometimes jump ahead of the AI and tell it what to do and go from instructions to code. And on both of those, we've done a lot of work on making the editing experience for those things ergonomic, and also making those things smart and fast.
One of the things we really wanted was we wanted the model to be able to edit code for us. That was kind of a wish, and we had multiple attempts at it before we had sort of a good model that could edit code for you. Then after we had a good model, I think there have been a lot of effort to make the inference fast for having a good experience, and we've been starting to incorporate. I mean, Michael sort of mentioned this like ability to jump to different places, and that jump to different places I think came from a feeling of once you accept an edit, it's like, man, it should be just really obvious where to go next. It's like
that's a pretty fascinating. Okay. No. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's just my dad. That's pretty interesting, in that being able to jump to the next line and basically predict what's going to happen in the next line. It's going to save much time, once you accept the code and say, hey, this code is good. It's going to move to the next line and basically predict this change needs to now be made. Say you change a variable and, there's different names in there. It's going to go back and it's going to change those names back and you accept it.
It's like I'd made this change. The model should just know that like the next place to go to is like 18 lines down. Like if you're a Vim user, you could press 18JJ or whatever. But like why am I doing this? Like the model should just know it. And then so the idea was you just press tab, it would go 18 lines down, and then it would show you the next edit, and you would press tab. So it's just you, as long as you could keep pressing tab. And so the internal competition was how many tabs can we make someone press? Once you have like the idea, more sort of abstractly, the thing to think about is sort of like how are the edits sort of zero entropy. So once you've sort of expressed your intent and the edit there's no like new bits of information to finish your thought, but you still have to type some characters to like make the computer understand what you're actually thinking. Then maybe the model should just sort of read your mind and all the zero entropy bits should just be like tabbed away.
Yeah.
That was sort of the abstract version.
There's this interesting thing where if you look at language model loss on different domains, I believe the bits per byte, which is kind of character normalized loss for code, is lower than language, which means in general, there are a lot of tokens in code that are super predictable, a lot of characters that are super predictable. And this is, I think, even magnified when you're not just trying to autocomplete code, but predicting what the user is going to do next in their editing of existing code. And so, the goal with cursor tab is let's eliminate all the low entropy actions you take inside of the editor. When the intent is effectively determined, let's just jump you forward in time, skip you forward.
Okay, so basically what I'm understanding from this is they're trying to just lower your editing. Basically, just trying to be able to edit the things faster by, get the code to understand, hey, you made this change, you're supposed to go here, you're supposed to change this. So basically, this is going to be like 10 times better at predicting things, because you already have sections that rely on a certain code at the top. So that top code is changed, everything at the bottom is changed, right?
Right. Well, what's the intuition and what's the technical details of how to do next cursor prediction? That jump, that's not so intuitive, I think, to people.
Yeah, I think I can speak to a few of the details on how to make these things work. They're incredibly low latency, so you need to train small models on this task. In particular,
models,
they're incredibly pre-fill token hungry. What that means is they have these really, really long prompts where they see a lot of your code, and they're not actually generating that many tokens. And so the perfect fit for that is using a sparse model, meaning an MOE model. So that was kind of one breakthrough we made that substantially improved its performance at longer context. The other being a variant of speculative decoding that we kind of built out called speculative edits. These are two, I think, important pieces of what make it quite high quality and very fast.
Okay, so MOE, mixture of experts, the input is huge, the output is small.
Yeah.
Okay, so like what else can you say about?
So using a smaller model, it's going to make it a lot better. And also using MLU is also going to make it better. So which means this speculative edit of theirs, speculating on the edit, basically in the name, it's trying to come up with like the most accurate thing to what you're searching for.
How to make it, like, caching play a role in this particular...
Caching plays a huge role.
Caching.
Because you're dealing with this many input tokens. If every single keystroke that you're typing in a given line, you had to rerun the model on all of those tokens passed in, you're just going to, one, significantly degrade latency. Two, you're going to kill your GPUs with load. So you need to you need to design the actual prompts used for the model such that they're caching aware. And then you need to reuse the KV cache across requests, just so that you're spending less work, less compute.
Again, what are the things that Tab is supposed to be able to do kind of in the near term? Just to like sort of linger on that. Generate code, like fill empty space, also edit code across multiple lines.
Yeah.
And then jump to different locations inside the same file.
Yeah.
And then like
hopefully jump to different files also. So if you make an edit in one file and maybe you have to go to another file to finish your thought, it should go to the second file also.
Yeah. So it's gonna jump between lines, files, generate code, fill code in between, edit the code with the tab, predict the next change. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the full generalization is like next action prediction. Like sometimes you need to run a command in the terminal, and it should be able to suggest the command based on the code that you wrote too. Or sometimes you actually need to, like, it suggests something, but you it's hard for you to know if it's correct, because you actually need some more information to learn. Like you need to know the type to be able to verify that it's correct. And so maybe it should actually take you to a place that's like the definition of something, and then take you back so that you have all the requisite knowledge to be able to accept the next completion.
So providing the human the knowledge.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you integrate, like, I just gotten to know a guy named PrimeGen, who I believe has an you can order coffee.
PrimeGen mentioned
coffee via SSH.
You know what?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we did that.
We did that.
So can that also the model do that? Like feed you and like and provide you with caffeine? Okay, so that's the general framework.
Yeah. And the magic moment would be,
here's how Atera takes your team's IT efficiency from good to okay. Imagine being able to solve hours-long tickets like
if programming is this weird discipline where sometimes the next 5 minutes, not always, but sometimes the next 5 minutes of what you're going to do is actually predictable from the stuff you've done recently. And so can you get to a world where that next 5 minutes either happens by you disengaging and it taking you through, or maybe a little bit more of just you seeing next step what it's going to do, and you're like, okay, that's good. And you can just sort of tap through these big changes.
As we're talking about this, I should mention,
basically just review
one of the really cool and noticeable things about Cursor is that there's this whole diff interface situation going on. So like the model suggests with the red and the green of like, here's how we're going to modify the code. And in the chat window, you can apply and it shows you the diff and you can accept the diff. So maybe can you speak to whatever direction of that?
We'll probably have like 4 or 5 different kinds of diffs. So we have optimized the diff for the autocomplete, so that has a different diff interface than when you're reviewing larger blocks of code. And then we're trying to optimize another diff thing for when you're doing multiple different files. And sort of at a high level, the difference is for when you're doing autocomplete, it should be really, really fast to read. Actually, it should be really fast to read in all situations. But in autocomplete, it's sort of, you're really like your eyes focused in one area. And you can't be in too many, the humans can't look in too many different places.
So you're talking about on the interface side? Like
on the interface side. So it currently has this box on the side. So we have the current box, and if it tries to delete code in some place and tries to add other code, it tries to show you a box on the
You
side.
can maybe show it if we pull it up on cursor.com. This is what we're talking
Go
about.
up. So that
Exactly
box,
here.
it was like 3 or 4 different attempts at trying to make this thing work. Where first the attempt was like these blue crossed out lines. So before it was a box on the side, it used to show you the code to delete by showing you like Google Docs style. You would see like a line through it,
yeah.
then you would see the new code. And that was super distracting. And then we tried many different, there was sort of deletions, there was trying to red highlight. Then the next iteration of it, which is sort of funny, you would hold on Mac the option button. So it would sort of highlight a region of code to show you that there might be something coming. So maybe in this example, like the input and the value would all get blue. And the blue would to highlight that the AI had a suggestion for you. So instead of directly showing you the thing, it would show you that it would just hint that the AI had a suggestion. And if you really wanted to see it, you would hold the option button and then you would see the new suggestion. Then if you release the option button, you would then see your original code.
Mm-hmm. So that's, by the way, that's pretty.
So being able to get suggestions from the LLM or the AI code editor, pretty, this kind of integration within the IDE is basically going to make developers faster, obviously, with this increase in productivity. Because if you're seeing the new change that's being suggested and you can quickly glance at it and see, hey, this thing actually makes sense, use that. So yeah,
pretty nice, but you have to know to hold the option button.
Yeah.
So
by the way, I'm not a Mac
Oh,
user,
cool,
but I
yeah.
got it. Option.
It was
It's a button, I guess. You people have.
It's
Windows
it's just non-intuitive. I think that's the key thing.
And there's a chance this is also not the final version of it.
I am personally very excited for making a lot of improvements in this area. Like we often talk about it as the verification problem, where these diffs are great for small edits. For large edits, or like when it's multiple files or something, it's actually a little bit prohibitive to review these diffs. And so there are like a couple of different ideas here. Like one idea that we have is, okay, like parts of the diffs are important. They have a lot of information. And then parts of the diff are just very low entropy. They're like the same thing over and over again. And so maybe you can highlight the important pieces and then gray out the not so important pieces. Or maybe you can have a model that looks at the diff and sees, oh, there's a likely bug here. I will like mark this with a little red squiggly and say like, you should probably like review this part of the diff. And ideas in that vein, I think, are exciting.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating space of like UX design engineering.
Yeah.
So you're basically trying to guide the human programmer through all the things they need to read and nothing more.
Yeah.
Like optimally.
Yeah, and you want an intelligent model to do it. Like currently, diff algorithms they're just like normal algorithms. There's no intelligence.
Yeah.
There's like intelligence that went into designing the algorithm, but then there's no like, you don't care if it's about this thing or this thing, and so you want a model to do this.
So I think the general question is like, Matt, these models are going to get much smarter. As the models get much smarter, the changes they will be able to propose are much bigger. So as the changes gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the humans have to do more and more and more verification work. It gets more and more and more hard. Like it's just you need to help them out. It's sort of. I don't want to spend all my time
with like 50 code lines to review, and basically you have to understand each of them. It's gonna be quite a task, because trying to imagine you have like the entire code base of Google. How are you going to be able to go line by line and review everything? Especially if you're using a large language model, it makes changes in like 50 or 20 other files. How are you going to track those and actually know, hey, this is actually the correct thing being done?
Good.
can you say a little more across multiple files, Div?
Yeah, I mean, so GitHub tries to solve this, right? With code review. When you're doing code review, you're reviewing multiple diffs across multiple files. But like Arvid said earlier, I think you can do much better than code review. Code review kind of sucks. Like you spend a lot of time trying to grok.
Currently, I'm a junior developer, and yeah, some seniors don't like code reviews. For me, I was just given a day to do a code review the other day, and I was like, damn, I don't know what I'm doing here. It was my first code review, and I was like, I'm gonna try and understand what this code is doing, because I didn't write it, but I'm gonna try. And I tried, and I was like, hey, I'm still not getting it. But I ended up reaching out to the guy and asking, hey, what's this thing doing? Because we'd just be confused. Junior devs.
This code that's often quite unfamiliar to you, and it often doesn't even actually catch that many bugs. And I think you can significantly improve that review experience using language models, for example, using the kinds of tricks that Arvid had described of maybe pointing you towards the regions that actually matter.
Oh, so pointing you towards the direction that you're trying to go instead of pointing you, 50 miles away. That is kind of like a very big thing, because you don't want to be focusing on 50 lines or focusing only on the main important lines, that are affecting the rest of the things.
I think also if the code is produced by these language models and it's not produced by someone else, the code review experience is designed for both the reviewer and the person that produced the code. In the case where the person that produced the code is a language model, you don't have to care that much about their experience. And you can design the entire thing around the reviewer such that the reviewer's job is as fun, as easy, as productive as possible. And I think that feels like the issue with just kind of naively trying to make these things look like code review. I think you can be a lot more creative and push the boundary on what's possible.
And just one idea there is, I think ordering matters. Generally, when you review a PR, you have this list of files and you're reviewing them from top to bottom. But actually, you actually want to understand this part first, because that came logically first, and then you want to understand the next part. And you don't want to have to figure out that yourself. You want a model to guide you through the thing.
So basically, to end off this entire thing, you basically need a structure, just like how you have methods, and you're going into each of these methods. But the thing is, it's arranged in such a way that it's all logical. Not logical, but it's all in ascending order or descending. It's going down. So it's all the changes that were made in those lines is basically going to be in that format. So it's not gonna say, no, this method, a change was made, right? But this method is under this line, but this line in between was changed. So it's supposed to know that. It's supposed to know that, hey, this method is supposed to come here, and this is supposed to come down there. So in closing, my thoughts on this is that it's a great experience for developers. It's definitely going to change how we develop. I've used Cursor. It's fast. It helps me do, inline generations. It helps me understand things on the side. If you're doing web development, this is definitely going to be a big game changer, because I usually use VS Code to make Electron apps as well as Node, React.js applications. So it's very good in that sense. But only relying on code editors is not the future. Sure, the code editors are going to implement it. IntelliJ, I believe, is integrating its AI assistant in its IDE. Copilot, Microsoft is doing the same thing. Cursor's doing the same thing. There's another startup called Peer doing the same thing. There's Continue. So these guys are just forking VS Code and just, making changes on it. I have no issues in that. I don't care as long as the product is great. But the thing is, there are other editors that need to be changed as well. I use Eclipse, as I've said, to write Java programs, and we don't have artificial intelligence in there. Who's going to solve that? I'm not going to go and fork Eclipse. I don't even think I can fork Eclipse anyways. I'm not going to go make a plugin because I also use Notepad. I also use Microsoft SQL Server. Nothing is in there. How are we going to solve this? That's my big thing, right? That's the main takeaway of why I think there needs to be sort of like a universal thing that just works outside of these IDEs. So in closing, this is pretty much an interesting insight into Cursor. I hope you guys really enjoyed. I'll be doing this probably. Damn, it's noisy. I'll see if I can stream again, but if not, I hope you guys